with that taken care of, I'd like to welcome Stuart Lowther and Lewis Clifton. So well done, guys. Thank you for taking part.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I know it's a big ask, but thank you again for giving up your time. Okay. So there's lots of questions, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to go straight into it. I'm just admitting a couple more people. You're both young men. What made you follow George Formby? Is it you playing his music, or compared to other artists? So why George Formby? Lewis, what do you think?
Well, the way I came into George Formby was completely by chance. It wasn't influenced or anything. Nobody suggested him to me. I just came across him completely by chance. The first video I saw of George was on YouTube, and it was the last 4 minutes of the Friday show. Now, any Formby aficionados will know that's Leaning on a Lamppost, his last television performance. And you'll also know that he didn't play a ukulele solo in that song. So the thing that really captivated me wasn't his playing as such, but his connection with the audience. He was holding the uke, he was playing the uke, singing his song, but he wasn't only playing the uke, he was playing the audience. He knew how to work them. And that was in the December 1960, and it was having the same effect on me in December 2008. He was doing it straight down the camera lens to me. So that really caught my imagination. I hadn't seen anything like that before. And when I saw him play a solo eventually, the combination of those two factors, bingo, I was hooked.
Okay, and what about you, Stuart?
I came across it rather a similar fashion, all completely by accident. The first clip of Formby I saw was the little segment from the film. It escapes me which one it is now. They laughed when I started to play, when he stood in that art gallery. And, he's singing, and they laughed when I started to play on in Ludwig and what have you. And I was sort of captivated by the nature of the song, I suppose. It's quite unusual, a comedy song. And then, after listening to all these funny lyrics, you get to the solo at the end. And that sort of captured me, really. And I watched that solo right at the end of the song and decided I want to be able to do that. And it just started from there. You then enter into a world of Formby that is ever expansive on the internet.
When you said that the uke captured your imagination, had you been playing any instruments prior to the ukulele, Stuart? Or was it just the first instrument you came across?
Where I used to play the keyboard and things of that nature. I used to, when I was in primary school, and I gave that up, and it was many years between giving that up and picking a uke up. I used to be able to play the electric organ, with the foot pedals, and I used to be able to play a tune with my feet without looking. But yeah, it was many years between giving that up.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. People come into the society with different musical experiences. What was your first impressions, Lewis, of the George Formby Society?
Magic. I first joined, the first convention I came to was March 2012. So I found Formby in 2008. I bought a banjo uke in 2009, played on and off in between 2009 and 2011, which of course that year Frank Skinner came along and did that very popular documentary that a lot of people saw and a lot of people joined as a result. The overriding memory, I suppose, to be walking down that corridor of the Imperial and hearing that sound of the thrash, and being all those years in the wilderness, as it were, thinking I was the only Formby fan out there, thinking nobody else will be doing this, surely nobody else will be mad enough to be playing the ukulele like George Formby. And I'm walking down this corridor hearing all these people playing, and I'm yards away from people just like me, So it was magical.
Wow.
I walked through the doors of the Lancastrian suites. It was like walking into a bright light, you know, that cliche thing. And I was brought straight down back to earth with somebody pointing at me saying, "He's new." And it was John Wally. And in those first 30 minutes, half an hour, John sat me down and made me feel like a celebrity, like George himself. He was made me feel very welcome.
So it's important you have someone to welcome you into the society on your very first visit.
Definitely. And I left the weekend feeling that I found something very special. It was like everything had fell into place, and I knew the society was something for me. I wanted to be a part of it. And since then, I haven't missed a convention, prior to COVID, of course.
Of course. And what about you, Stuart? What was your impressions of the society?
My first impression, or the first time I crossed it, was whilst trawling the internet for, you know, more Formby clips. Of course, you come across.
Sorry, Stuart. Can I just ask you to stop? Could you just make sure everyone's mic is muted, please? Okay. Matt. Okay. Okay, guys. Right. I was actually on mute Lewis then. All right. So sorry, Stuart. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I came across. I can't remember what the first clip of the Formby Society was when I came across it on YouTube. But I saw, you know, there was all these other people, and much like Lewis said, that we're into the same thing, and you know, we're all seem to be aiming for the same thing of being able to recreate the magic that is George Formby's playing style. And it was then a mad dash to get on the website, see when the next convention was, and get to Blackpool. So the first convention I attended was November 2012, and yeah, you walk down that corridor and you know you can hear ukes in the distance, and it's all quite exciting. And you step through that door, and you know there's the stage and the big audience, and there's so much going on. And then of course, much like Lewis, I ran into John Wally. Who again, you know, made me feel very welcome, and you know, explained what was going on, and asked where I was from and who I was and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Lewis Clifton very, very shortly. Who wasn't ever so interested at the time. Some other engagements, I think. But yeah, ever since then, it was definitely something that was going to be a fixture in my life.
It's funny that you. Sorry, Stuart. I was saying it's funny because I think everyone who's joined recently, they've got their own story. I remember, you know, meeting the first person from the society, you know, wherever they attend a branch meeting in Blackpool. And, you know, Lewis, you mentioned about your first uke. What was your first ukulele? Can you remember?
It was a wooden uke. It was what they call, is it a Mahalo? I think Mahalo.
Oh, right, yeah.
But it was a painted one. It was bright white.
What about you, Stuart? Can you remember your first ukulele?
I've still got it. It was again a wooden uke. It was a vintage brand uke from China. I think it cost about £21.
Yeah.
That's what I learnt the basics of.
They had two in the shop, the white one or a purple one with a dolphin on the bridge. So I chose the white one.
Not the dolphin?
No, I didn't want the dolphin.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny because what is your favourite ukulele banjo then? You know, you start on your wooden uke without the dolphin. What's your you know, dream uke you've got in your collection? Because both of you guys, you know, I've seen people, you two in particular, playing a whole range of ukulele banjos, and I'm just wondering now your personal favourite in your collections.
That's a very, I find that a difficult question because I have a couple of ukes in my collection. and I like them all for different reasons. And it's very difficult to pick out a favourite, though. In terms of a uke with a history and a story, is the Gibson UB2 that I've got, that once belonged to a great friend of many people and mine, Alan Kershaw. That has always, had a special place, really. Just because of, I knew the man behind it and how highly thought of he was within the society. So it's, a treasured part of the collection.
Okay, that's really, very special ukulele. However, Stuart, I would like to tell everyone here that I know for a fact you've got more than a couple of views because you're showing me them all. So your collection is vast. Okay, what about you, Lewis?
Well, like Stuart was saying, I think when it comes to favourite ukes, it's a difficult subject, but as Stuart pointed out, sometimes you can associate instruments with memories. And the one, funny enough, I got out today, because it's never out of my hand, really, is my Ludwig. Stuart, of course, mentioned Alan Kershaw, who we all knew very well. Well, this was owned, I got it in September 2012, so I've had it 10 years next year. And it was originally owned by Bernard Young, past, present, and honorary member. And he owned hundreds of ukes. And thanks to Kathy Stanyland, I think she's here today.
Yes, she's here, yes.
I managed to meet Bernard just before he went to South Africa. And I took the uke to show him, and he was very pleased to see it. At the time, he sold all his instruments, and he only had one left. Very pleased to see this when he played it, because I took it back with me. But eventually, I came across this one, which was the one that he had left. And that's a Ron Beddoes new concert made for Bernard. So 2 instruments that hold special memories for me. That nice afternoon with Bernard.
Wow. Yeah, again, I suppose instruments do, the people who own instruments were just caretakers, because, sometime they'll move on to another player, and it's the story that goes with instruments. What about your... during your time in the society, who were your, mentors, Stuart? Who were your mentors who really made a difference to your playing or being part of the society?
Well, I always thought the society a bit like an extended family, and it's again difficult to pinpoint one person in some respects, because everyone adds something to your experience in the society and in a lot of ways into your life. I've made so many friends and had so many experiences through the Formby Society. That list does not include Andrew Poppleton, unfortunately.
Shame.
When I was learning to play and putting together my own sort of style of things, I picked up so many things from so many different people. And you watch people on stage and on YouTube, and you notice a particular, rhythm or strumming pattern or different chord progression that I liked, and pick it up and just add it. And eventually you formed your own style, if you like, that is a combination of, Formby and everyone else around you.
Yeah.
As well as, your own inputs into it,
Mentors, again, split question, really, isn't it? People who's guided you through the early years of the society, well, my early years of the society, and playing style. As Stuart says, it's one big family, but people who jump out to my mind now, I've already mentioned John Wally, how wonderful he was with me in those first 30 minutes, but I can't forget Jill. She's been wonderful, always very encouraging. Peter and Catherine Pollard, if it wasn't for them guiding me and advising me, I doubt I wouldn't have become archivist. I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to go on the committee. Jeff and Darwin Sean, they live just down the road from me. I'm always talking to them. We keep in touch. They're just like family. And Eddie and Dale Utley, of course. Everybody. We're all friendly. That's the thing about the Formby Society. In terms of playing style, the first video of the society I saw was Dennis Taylor. And I learned a lot by watching his videos. And then when I joined the society, I met Dickie Speak, and he was very generous with his time, showing me bits, which I still use today. But as Stuart says, you take these aspects of different people and you develop your own. Nobody's the same.
No.
Not one player the same.
That's interesting. That's the one message I when I do the beginners class, everyone wants to know how to play it like George Formby, and it's all unique playing. And, you know, being given the confidence in the society to develop that, I think that's really important, being welcomed, given that time. I think we're really successful in doing that with some of our members. And I can see some members on here who helped me and when I started going. So, you know, I think everyone gets that support when they join the GFS. Lewis, can you tell me your favourite George Formby song and why, please?
I've just mentioned Dennis Taylor. The first video I saw of Dennis was TT Races. And of course, he was playing that song through. He did the first solo, and then he went on to what he called the second solo.
Solo.
So, and I watched that and I thought, gosh, he's picking out the melody and the chords. And I hadn't seen Formby do that to that point. And so I thought that was brilliant. So I copied that. And it was the first song I did at Blackpool as well. So yeah, TT Race is one of my favourites. But also Bell Bottom George. That's a nice free and breezy song. I like that. But Formby was so versatile. So I like listening to Noughts and Crosses, If I Had a Girl Like You, things like that.
Yeah. Wow, okay. But you, Stuart?
That's, again, I think I've always liked the Lowther when I started to play it. You know, it's my earliest memory of Formby. It's a nice, you know, fast-paced song with a good solo at the end. I've always liked Pleasure Cruise as well. That's another one I've always liked. That's one of songs when I'm, you know, when you're at Blackpool and Lewis Clifton makes you learn his song all day, and then you've got to spend time to learn yours, and then that's it. It's game over. So you have to go with the safe one. That's why I'm always doing
Pleasure Cruise. You know, Stuart, I know where you're coming from. I go to Blackpool with a whole host of George Formby material, and Pollard comes up and says, "Can we do high spots or high Chinese blues?" I don't get time to practice. It's awful. No. I know where you're coming from.
You don't get time for your own spot.
I'm trying to be serious, and that's my only joke with Peter Pollard at this session. So, okay. Right, okay. So we talking about your favourite song. You know, if we could put you in a Grand Hotel, black tie, you know, amazing food, who would you like to have a meal with? Which GFS member would you like to have a meal with, Lewis?
I was hoping that wouldn't come up because it's a hard one. Present and past, or
any? Obviously, you need me to be there because my humour and good jokes.
To pay for it. I'd have to say Bill Logan.
Okay.
Bill Logan, purely because first president. There must be some stories there. I mean, we heard John's interview last month. I could have sat there for another 3 hours and still wanted more. So I'd love to have heard some stories from Bill Logan as well.
Yeah, Bill Logan would have been an interesting candidate, certainly, yeah. What about you, Stuart?
Again, it's a really difficult question. Luckily, I've had the pleasure of having dinner with, you know, several people from the GFS that I would like to have dinner with. So that's been and gone. But I never got to meet Dennis Taylor. I was a year too late, really, I suppose. And from what, you know, people tell me about Dennis and the things that he did for the society and how he, brought it into the modern age of the time. It's certainly sort of someone worth meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I did meet Dennis, and I know Tom Fletcher and Peter and some people here. They were not on Daz and Eddie. Will probably agree on that. Absolutely. With that in mind, you mentioned, Stuart, about how Dennis updated the society when he was president and prior to that. How do you think the GFS can develop for the future?
What a question that is. I suppose when Dennis Taylor modernised the society, it was, I'm not going to say easier to do it than it is today, because that wouldn't be right. But producing a website and bringing the society into a more mainstream field of knowledge, if you like, with the dawn of the internet and all the rest of it, rather than something that would be communicated through maybe word of mouth or perhaps newspapers and magazines and things like that. Today, it's really difficult because the Formby Society is, it's on the stage already, in that, there are hundreds of clips on YouTube, and they've got a fantastic website. To develop it further into a modern era is very difficult, because it is, about someone that, unfortunately passed away 60 years ago. Bringing that into the modern era is not difficult, because there's a lot of, as we see through membership, there's a lot of people that are into it. But how to change it from what it is, I don't know. But I mean, because I in 2012, I was attracted to it as it is.
Yeah.
So to change that, I don't know.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you for being so honest. What about you, Lewis?
Well, as Stuart says, a difficult question. And in some respects, is it my place to say anything? But I suppose I do have an opinion on it. But 60 years the society's been formed now, and a lot's been done already. Apart from echoing what Stuart has said, all I could really add would be harness technology. And this pandemic's just shown what technology can do. I mean, look what we're doing now on here, video conferencing, Zoom. Just harness technology, social media, Facebook. We've already got a brilliant website, as Stuart said, organised by Peter. But just harness technology, make the most of it.
What Lewis isn't telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is that he actually was the architect of the George Formby Society Facebook page. He actually set it up quite a few years ago, and he's one of the administrators. So again, Lewis, thank you for setting that up and supporting our membership. And of course, that goes to my colleague at Batley, Peter Pollard, who runs the website on his own for the George Formby Society and its members. So thank you, Peter and Lewis. Thank you.
No, I can't add any more to that.
No. Peter, yeah.
The only thing I would say there, I don't live in Batley anymore. I live in Netherton. I'd left Batley a long, long time ago. I want to forget it. Right,
you need to be muted. This is my interview. You're not interfering like you normally do. Dear, right? Okay. Okay, so when you guys were learning the uke, which was the most difficult stroke you learned, or strokes? And this is really interesting for me. As I speak with lots of people who join the society and come on the beginners class, which I host, be it Blackpool on Zoom, and they always have the barriers to succeed, and we try and break them down and help them. What were the barriers for you when you were playing? Can I ask Stuart first?
When learning the uke, in terms of Formby strokes, the one I found most difficult was the split stroke. Getting past that, being able to do the split stroke, took I don't know how long, but a long time. And it took years to be able, once I'd done the split stroke, it took me years to be able to do the shake within the split stroke.
Wow.
I suppose through lack of trying in a lot of respects, because I thought, well, I can do the split stroke. The shake is such a small part, hidden away amongst it all. I can get away without it. And I remember performing at a 40s weekend in Thorpe Camp, just up the road in Lincolnshire. And I did it by accident. And then I realised what I'd done. I wonder if I can do it again. And, managed to do it again. And that was that. But definitely the split stroke was the most difficult Formby stroke to begin with. When I first picked a uke up, the first thing was being able to just go straight to a chord, from one chord shape to another, to be able to just go straight to it without thinking about it. You sort of develop a memory of how the fretboard is set out. And that's something that comes with practice. Yeah, the split stroke is my answer. That was a long way of
split stroke. That's interesting about muscle memory, finding chords and fingerboard, because I think lots of people have come from a guitar background. They've got that advantage of chords on the fingerboard. I think if you're picking the uke up from scratch, we forget how difficult that is, picking out a C and an F and a G. G chords, alone the F minors and all the other ones, which we predominantly use in a lot of the songs we play with Formby. What about you, Lewis? What do you find most challenging?
Picking up on what you said there about guitar, I did play a very, very small bit of guitar before I started to play ukulele, but it was nothing to write home about. I was no Brian May or anything, just very, very small, in school mainly. So I had an understanding of chords, but I was completely, and still am, completely music illiterate. I can't read any music. I just go off chord diagrams and mainly by ear. I've picked up a bit of keyboard since joining the society, and that's all by ear. In terms of strokes, it wasn't, to my memory, I can't remember struggling with any strokes, but what I can remember and what put me off for a long time was that when I got my little white soprano ukulele home, I rushed upstairs, put a Formby film on, which was It's in the Air, skipped to our Sergeant Major, got the chords in front of me, GFS songbook, which I bought off Dennis Taylor, who was running the shop at the time. I had to write off to him and send a check, and he sent them back to me. And I started playing along, and I sounded nothing like George. I thought, what's happening here? My uke sounded awful, and his sounded okay. Brilliant. What I had no idea of was keys. I was in C and he was in E, something silly like that. So so it confused me a bit, and that did interfere really with learning, because there wasn't really tutorials on YouTube at the time. Perhaps Peter Nixon had one on the split stroke, I think, and I think Matt may have had one, but there was no Mike Warren tuition DVDs. And of course, I wasn't a member of Blackpool, didn't go to the Blackpool conventions at the time, so I didn't go to the tuition classes. So mainly it was just listening to Formby and trying to replicate it yourself. But when you're in a different key and you haven't got any idea that you are, it was difficult.
Yeah, it must have been challenging before I started. Have you still got your white ukulele?
I don't. I give it to my cousin.
Okay, I was going to suggest that the next time we come to Blackpool, you should go and play TT races on it, just to show us how good you are and versatile. We're using the £20 uke. We've all started in those types of ukes, haven't we? And
but then I went on to a Chinese countryman. They're all the same. They're all the same model, aren't they? But they just got different names. But this one was a countryman. It was a big brass thing. like a tank.
Yeah. I remember I had Ashbury, and it was really heavy to hold, and I just couldn't cope with it, to be honest. I made no progress, and I think it's one of the few instruments that you've got to have a half decent instrument to help you make that progress. Some of the strokes, and I think the Ashbury just held me back on that one. Okay, and Stuart, you mentioned that you played in some 1940s weekends. Do you do that very often, or is it, obviously not with COVID since COVID, but were you going to play at different festivals and wartime reenactments?
No,
All right.
No, I only do 2 a year.
Okay.
They're a week apart in the middle of summer in Lincolnshire. One was Thorpe Camp, which is just up the road, and another one, Woodhall Spa 40s weekend. And those are the only 2 I do. How that came to be, I'm not entirely sure whether I can't remember. I've done them for many years now. But Thorpe Camp, I got a phone call once, from one of the organisers who's been to Blackpool, actually. They've since taken up the ukulele, and asked if I could do, some Formby songs and what have you. So I did. And then whilst at Thorpe Camp, an organiser from Woodhall Spa said, Woodhall Spa, next week, would you do it sort of next year? Yeah, okay. And it went from there. It was one of those things where people would ask me quite often, would you do this and would you do that? And it was a time when I was, still in school or still in college. And I didn't want to turn my Formby hobby into a chore.
Yeah.
Every week I've got to go somewhere. I've got to take all this stuff. I've got to set it all up. And I've got to do the same old set. And then pack it all back up again and do it next week. And work that into, into living life.
See, that's never appealed to me. The gigs, I've been offered gigs. Jeff arranged a gig for me once, which I didn't particularly want to do, and I had to let him down slowly. It's been a long time since, we may not remember that. And just before November time 2019, I was offered a place in a gala performance in the Liverpool Philharmonic Hall, is it? In Liverpool?
Yes, I think it is, yeah.
I was offered a place in a variety show there with an orchestra and everything, and I felt guilty, but I turned it down because it's just never appealed to me.
No, really? That's interesting, yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you don't live near any local branches, Stuart and Lewis. I'm just trying to think.
I did have Chester in North
Chester,
Wales.
yeah.
Chester was brilliant, yeah. Chester was really good.
I've never had a branch nearby. The closest was Sheffield, and that's
of course, at the M1, yeah.
Yeah, a good hour and a half away. So, Blackpool was the main thing, and then I'd go to a branch on the odd occasion that I could.
Okay, all right. Both of you, 2 young men, you're in your early 20s. Are you going to stay with the society, and you're going to face the challenges of marriage, a mortgage, jobs? I know it's almost impossible to say, but do you think you'll stay as a member in years to come, Lewis?
Well, just look at everybody here today. Everybody's got commitments. Everybody's got relationships, marriages, mortgages, jobs. And we all make a compromise, don't we? We all want to be here, so we make the effort to make time to be here. If you look at it, if you're worried that if a partner has an effect on you attending, don't go to that George Formby Society, don't want you going there. Well, they're not respecting you, are they? They should just support you in that. So if they didn't support me in it, it'd be goodbye. I'm a member of the George Formby Society, and that's it. I'm here to stay. It's what I enjoy doing, and not even a lady could split me up from it.
Well, they are brave words, Lewis. I mean, one very reverend person sent me a question in, and I've not shared it, but we've got plenty of time, so I'm going to ask you, Lewis, now. If you were down the aisle preparing yourself for marriage, and someone turned up at the door and said, there's a Ludwig crown inlaid, top of the range, what would you choose, the Ludwig or the marriage?
I'd have to see the Ludwig first.
That's a really good answer, because I would do the same. Okay. Cassie's not on here, so I can say what. Don't, hey, Peter, delete that bit out, please. Delete that bit out.
No.
And what about you, Lewis? Stuart, sorry.
Me.
You know, what challenges could, you face which might hamper your membership?
It's difficult to give an answer without saying the same thing that Lewis said, but regardless of whether perhaps a commitment means that you can't make it to Blackpool, I've still got a uke knocking about, and I've still got a keyboard knocking about that I can pick up and play at whatever opportunity I get. But it's 4 weekends in a year. I'm sure that 4 weekends in an entire year can be sacrificed for a trip up to Blackpool and see all your Formby friends. Regardless, it's a drop in the ocean in terms of your time.
That's great. Thank you. What about you? If you were at the aisle, would you swap marriage for a Ludwig, or would you tie the knot?
You can't such an opportunity.
Oh, okay. Very tactful. Okay. Excuse me. So my next question, what can the youth of today gain from being a Formby fan or knowing about George Formby? And Lewis, could you, I'll put that over to you, Lewis, first.
Well, that's a difficult one. What can they gain, was that, sorry?
Yes, gain from knowing about George, or his music, his performances, or joining the GFS.
Well, I can only really, as a young member, fairly young, getting older now, give you what I've gained. I mean, in a society with a stage opportunity, we all get up on stage and sing a few songs. I doubt I would have ever done that or braved the stage without the society as an influence. So yeah, it's given me the opportunity to walk on a stage. It's given me the encouragement to go on a committee. Give me the confidence to put my ideas across in a committee meeting. I wouldn't have done that without the society. And it's given me some unique opportunities. I mean, without the society, I would never have gone to the Royal Albert Hall, performed for the Queen and the royal family. And I'd never have met Peter Pollard. But perhaps that's a good thing.
He's got a bicycle, he travels all over the country. I'm sure you met up with him selling insurance or delivering mail or something.
But yeah, no, you join, you'll never look back.
No, that's it. What about you, Stuart?
I'm of much the same opinion. I mean, I would not have done a lot of the things that I have done in my life without being a part of the George Formby Society. Again, I'd have never got the opportunity to perform at the Royal Albert Hall in front of the Queen and on national television. I'd have never have got the opportunity to share a cabin on a boat with Peter Pollard, which was a traumatic experience. But
I'm sure it was.
All your experiences of the Formby Society will be positive. I'd have never have got on the stage and performed and sang and played an instrument in front of perhaps a couple of hundred people as an audience. It's a dramatic. It's been a dramatic change, since since joining in 2012, it's a big difference to life. You know, all these people and things that you get to do.
Would you go back and change anything, Stuart?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I perhaps wouldn't have entertained you so much.
I don't know how you can say that. I really don't. I really don't know. What about you, Lewis? Would you change anything barring your friendship with Stuart?
Now that's made it 10 times difficult.
That was his only regret.
I wish I'd have joined earlier.
Yeah.
I could have joined earlier. I could have come to Blackpool earlier. I wish I'd gone to see Bernard Young more, because he was only a few miles away from me. Yeah, just done things more and joined earlier. Take every opportunity you can.
Yes, that's a good point you make. Take every opportunity you can. Okay, how is George relevant to your lives now? You've answered some of that already, but also, will this still be the case in years to come? I know we've talked about challenges. How is he relevant to you? And do you think that's going to change? Are you still going to give the same message, the same vision, what George gives you currently? Stuart, what do you think?
You would make me answer the same question twice.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. It's very similar interviews. It's just different wording.
Yeah. Well, when people who know me personally, I suppose, you know, meet me or think of what I am to them, you know, they will remember that, oh yeah, he's the one that plays George Formby songs, you know, if nothing else. So it's always going to be a part of me, I suppose. And again, even if for whatever, you know, reason other than, you know, it could only be the end of the world that this would happen, that I stopped playing a uke or and the keyboard and all the rest of it, I can't see me being able to part with them, even if I never got the time to play a uke. I don't think I would have the heart to sell any.
No.
They'd still be occupied in the house for the rest of my days.
Rest of your days, okay. Well, I hope they're long and many, Stuart. And what about you, Lewis?
So it's how Formby is still relevant. In that respect, I mean, it's part and parcel of my everyday life. I try and play every day. I at least talk or think or FaceTime, speak to a member of the society, several members every day. It is my life. I mean, I think the absence of Blackpool has just highlighted that, and how much I've missed going to Blackpool and the conventions. Just proves how relevant it still is to me. So yeah, it's I've been a member since I was 11, 12. I'm now 23 this year. So it's been a big part of my young life.
You fossil.
It's been a big part of my life so far. So it is still relevant. No matter which way I look at it, I just can't take Formby out of my everyday life. Same with the society.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you. I'm looking around the audience now, Stuart and Lewis, and for me, there's some legends of the GFS, the society. We've got Dennis Lee, Peter Pallard, John Wally, and John Badley, who've made a massive effort in, you know, supporting the society in the years. We've got Eddie Utley and Peter Nixon, Kevin and Kathy, who, you know, support our, you know, branches. They run the branch, and there's Bernard, and I can go on, and Daz. The most important question now is that all these people, we all want to know one definite answer to this question. How many ukulele banjos do you own, Lewis Clifton?
3.
3 dozen?
I own 15.
15?
15. Not 50 like you, Andrew Poppleton.
That's my age. what about you, Stuart?
I own currently, the count is at 9.
9. Yeah, that's more conservative. Yeah. I know for a fact Lewis has got at least 3 dozen. Me and Peter Paul have been working this out from video clips over the last 2 years. So, so again, I think that is an interesting point about ukes. And for me, the ukes are so synonymous with George Formby and the GFS. They go hand in hand. And I look around here, Stuart and Lewis, and it's just like looking at a family, and you two are certainly our future in the society, and to ensure that we still perpetuate the memory of George Formby and his music and films. So, and I would like to say thank you very much for your time. It's been very, very riveting. Okay, so again, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And I would like to say thank you to Peter Pollard, who's filming our recording. I'm hoping we may get either a podcast or something, or video eventually. I know Peter's working very, very hard to support the Zoomers as well as the GFS, and it's a full-time job for him. So I do appreciate that. And again, thank you for everyone who sent questions. I've tried to include as many questions as I can. And thank you for turning up and supporting my interview, because it makes a big difference to keeping GFS alive and kicking in this very turbulent period of our history. So thank you again. And that concludes our interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.